Mr. Andy Ostroy.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Andy, for sharing the beautiful human that Adrienne was and is. And thank you for letting us know a little bit more about her personality and her talent and her creativity. It's really incredible. But I wanted to ask you, because I think it's really important that we open up more conversations about grief in our society, and especially what you say in the film, that it's not something that just begins and ends, is something that you carry with life, and all of us are going through some kind of grief at some point. So it's really important for me that your journey of grief is also part of the film, but I don't know if that was the case from the beginning. So perhaps you can tell us, when did you knew that the story of Adrienne that you wanted to share with the world also was the story of your grief?
The vision for the film was always life, death, aftermath. So life was always pretty self-contained. It's biographical, archival footage. The death would be the focus on her murder, not the suicide, and try to find out what happened that day. And the aftermath was really about where the grief came in. And it's like, how does a family, how does a husband, how does a mother, how does a daughter, how do stepchildren, how do people grapple with the unfathomable? You know, it's, you read newspapers, you see the news every day, you see families go through things, and then you just kind of turn a page and take another bite of your sandwich, and life goes on. But what happens when it's you and your family? And I just felt that it was important to open that window and let people in to see, you know, to open a rare window into an even rarer story, you know, and show what grief is like, and how does it, you know, I mean, I was madly in love. How does a husband come out of that? How does a daughter who was adored by a mother, how does she grow up without a mother? How does a mother deal with the loss of her precious daughter? You know, I think it's important for people to see how we struggle through that.
And something that I really love about the film is how you bring us closer to who she was because of her incredible girlfriends, you know, the stories of the people that she worked with, your family, the beautiful and strong network that you are. So in many ways, making the film together must have had some sort of like impact. Can you tell us a little bit about, you know, how the film was perceived and shared, and if there was any kind of like talk about like how the film has you know, brought her back to you in a different way, or how did that like help the family in some way, or open up new windows to think of her?
Well, one of the main goals of the film was to bring her back to life and to humanize her all these years later. You know, I think I couldn't be satisfied knowing that for a lot of people she was just a murder victim. That she, you know, I wanted to tell her story so that people could see who she was. She was a human. She did have a life. She had a husband. She had a mother. She had a child. She had a life. She had a career which was blossoming. And it's like, you know, to show people that, and to show the guy who killed her that, you know, this was a human being. There's an evaporation of this incredible life that just left this planet. And so the vision was to always bring her back to life. You know, for me, it was just like 3.5, 4 years of just turning my insides out. You know, it's, you know, I don't want to speak for the family, but I think it was, you know, obviously a challenge for them too. And every, you know, people agreed to sort of open up and again, share with audiences what it's like to go through that. You know, I think it's important. You know, it's, we all grow up watching stories, and some of them are fun and, you know, happy, and some of them aren't. And, you know, not everybody wants to tell their story, right? Not everybody can tell their story. I felt it was important to tell this story, to tell the family's story, but mostly to tell her story and show people who she was, and to make them fall in love with her the way I fell in love with her, to make them grieve her absence and loss the way the family does, and to sort of, put her up in a place where she belongs.
I'm from Spain, but I had a poster of Adrienne in my bedroom when I was, starting to study cinema and photography. So, she was very well known and very loved in Spain as well.
It's so funny because when I met her, I had no idea who she was. And the thing with my friend, like I didn't know, but she profoundly changed people's lives. For me, I didn't, in the 90s, I had like 9 children. I was diapering babies all the time. I didn't know Hal Hartley from Hal Linden. So when I met her, I was like, all right, she's just some actress chick I met on Match.com, and then I started to slowly, find out who she was. But I didn't know her that way. I knew her as Adrienne Levine, the nice, sweet little funny Jewish girl from Long Island. And that's who I fell in love with.
And something that is really great is how you bring her to life in the sense also of like a struggling filmmaker, or like a self-aware filmmaker that is have to, like, a writer and a producer and an actress and all of these very creative things that were very, very difficult to do on your own. And that the fact that she was so self-aware as an artist, but also so aware of like the difficulties of the industry, and she and that was like a recurring theme. Like, it's so great that you found those amazing tapes about her doing a
oh yeah, when you dig deep, it's amazing what you find. She had a lot of stuff, and it was kind of laborious to go through it all and find certain pages in a diary that were gems, but that's part of what this process was, to find. In order to bring her back to life, I had to tell it. I didn't have her, I had to tell it through film clips and diaries and journal entries and things like that. So it took a lot of time to just, most of it was just shit like, I love Johnny on Tuesday, and then on Wednesday, I hate Johnny. On Thursday, I love Paul. Friday, I love Johnny again. Like, that's literally like what a young woman's diary looks like if you've never seen a young woman's diary. So, yeah, but it was great to find that stuff.
Anybody has some questions or comments? Yes, sir, go ahead. You can just project. There is a microphone. Wonderful.
Okay, this microphone's live.
It's heavy, too.
It's all right, I can manage. Been working out during COVID. Yeah. Sir, you've made more than a tribute. You've made a legacy that's so inspiring that it's palpable to imagine what her life would have been if she had survived. And so I think that's an extraordinary and enormous accomplishment. So congratulations.
Thank you.
And thank you for the gift you're giving us all. I wanted to ask you, since you were sort of navigating your daughter's healing process, it seems, what it was like for your daughter to step into the process of filmmaking, the world that her mom occupied, and what kind of healing that might have been for her. Thank you.
Well, the first thing I'm going to do is ask her if she would like to answer that question herself, but you don't have to. Teenagers, they're like, Dad. If you want to, now's your chance. If not, I can keep talking for you. Yeah, it's painful, I mean, Sophie lost her mom when she wasn't even 3 years old. And so some of the things she said are the most heartbreaking, the permanency of losing a mother and realizing that she'll never have one. And that's something that I'm sure, she deals with all the time. And I deal with it with her, and that's just our truth and what we have to accept and move on with life, as painful as that is.
A question up here? Yeah.
This was extraordinary. So first, thank you.
Thank you.
And like others, I followed Adrienne from the time, like from '89, and just knowing how much grief this story has brought to me personally, I always have a strong thought about what you all have been going through too. But looking at all the archival material that she left and seeing those notes of dreams that she had for other projects. I'm just wondering, are there other projects in the works to bring forward some of the ideas, or let other women filmmakers or family members, is there a plan like that?
Yeah, there's stuff that will happen. I was telling somebody before that, it's when you are trying to honor and protect and build someone's legacy, that's not like, you have a contract and it ends. That's just my lot in life for the rest of my life. And so there will always be things that I will do to take her work if I have it. This documentary that you saw that she was starting to make about happiness. Well, that's one example of something where I have all these tapes where she sat with all these amazing New York characters, and they're talking about happiness, and some of them are absolutely insane. Like, these are just classic, insane New York people that if you ask them a question, in 2 seconds you're like, I'm sorry I asked you a question. And it's magic. It's magical stuff. So there's so much that, she has scripts that, I open a closet and they fall on me. That's, she was always writing. And then there's a TV show that's in development. And so there's stuff that's going to happen. Because it's not, it's not fair. It's not fair that someone that talented and driven and creative doesn't get a chance to get her work out there. So there's only one other way to do it, and that's for me to do it, and other people who knew her and who can be involved and, do it for her.
Any more questions or comments all the way in the back? Thank you.
Get some good exercise.
She's coming. There's the microphone. Yeah. Use the microphone. Thank you.
All right. Oh, okay. I thought it was, as I imagine others did, thought it was interesting and compelling that you chose to include your meeting with Diego in the film. But that also has me curious about the technical elements of how you set that up. How did you go about informing him in advance that he was going to be filmed, and getting cameras physically and other equipment physically into that space? I don't imagine that would have been easy, like, as I say, technically to accomplish. And also, as I said a moment ago, letting him know that that meeting was going to be part of a motion picture. So can you tell us about that a bit, please?
Yeah, I mean, the two things that I think are most important that I'll stress, I mean, the equipment and all that, I mean, there's a crew and everybody carries their stuff and we all go in and get checked in, and that's pretty basic stuff. Yes, you got to write to the corrections department, and then you got to ask him for permission, which I'll get to in a second. But prisoners, they have a lot of time on their hands. So they like pen pals. You write them a letter, they'll write back, and that's what I did. I wrote him a letter, and initially he wrote back and said, I'll do it, and then he said he won't do it because he didn't realize he was going to be filmed on camera. And I said, well, I'm making a documentary, so it has to be filmed. And then he said he won't do it. But before that, he had told me, I owe you everything. I owe your family everything. I'll do whatever you need me to do. I'll step up and be a man and blah, blah, blah. And, I'll get over my fears for you because I owe you. I mean, he went on and on and on in a letter. And then said he wouldn't do it. And so at that point, I had a choice of either saying, like, all right, well, I'm not going to go see him, or to write him back. And in writing him back, I had a choice of either to border on beg, which I wasn't going to do because that made me ill to think about, or to just kind of speak my mind. And I said, and that's what I did. I said, is this the kind of man you want to be? I thought you owed me everything you owed. And I gave him back I literally wrote verbatim what he said back to me. I said, is this how you pay us back? Is this what you do for us? Is this how you be a man? And I put it in the mail, and I said to myself, he's going to tell me to go F myself, and that'll be that. And then he wrote back and said, okay, I'll do it. All right, I'll do it. And the rest is very technical. You got to go through, the approval process, and he approves it, and then you show up, and you hope that he doesn't change his mind, because I was told that they sign releases and don't sign release, and then you show up, and then they don't come out of their cell. They won't do it. So until he was literally in the room, we couldn't be sure that he was going to do this.
Yes, a question here in the front.
This isn't so much a film question like everybody else's question, but more so an image that I saw in the film, that plaque in that park that I've sat in so many times and never even really knew what I was reading. I just wanted to know, how that plaque got there, who asked for it to be put there, and who took that initiative. That's it.
After she died, what I learned from making this film, and the place I'm at now, is that I realized I didn't really allow myself to deal with the pain of losing her the way I should have, in the first year or so. So instead, what I did is I just started doing stuff. That's what I did. I went to work every day and put on a suit and did stuff. So, okay, this is how I'm going to deal with it. I didn't really go to therapy, because the 3-4 times I actually tried to go to therapy, these people were more crazy than I was at the time. So that didn't work out. And so, I took one of her scripts and I produced one of her films. I started a foundation. And then I went to the community board in the West Village, and I said, I want to have the street outside her block, outside her building. I want to name it Adrienne Shelly Way, or Adrienne Shelly, whatever. And I don't know if you guys have ever been to a community board meeting, but Christopher Guest should do a mockumentary about this stuff, because these people are insane. And they had no feeling. They were tone deaf. They couldn't care whether my wife was murdered or I was asking to plant a bulb. It just didn't matter to them. They all go every week. They all know each other's names. It's like a club. And so I had to go before them and say, I'd like to do this. And they were like, well, who is your wife? I mean, literally, that's the kind of stuff I got. And I said, well, she lived in the village. She wrote in the village. She worked in the village. She shot her movies in the village. She was, And then I said, and so one of the people on the board said, well, did she ever serve on a board like this? And I said, there's this other artist that you may have heard of who's pretty prolific. His name is Bob Dylan, and I don't think he ever served on a board either. And I said, is that how we're judging whether someone gets honored? And I couldn't believe this. And then, the next day, the parks people, they called me, this guy, I forget his name. Maybe it was Adrian Benepe or whatever. And he said, look, you're never going to get a street, but we can give you a garden. Would you take a garden? I felt like I was on Shark Tank. It was like, no, can I call my friend and say, should I take a garden? And once I said okay, and I understood, in a way, how that could be even more beautiful than a street, because they were telling me, we don't do streets anymore. Everybody wants a street, so we're not doing them anymore. And of course, they did more streets. I would walk around the city and see them all over the place. And so the plaque, I wrote the copy on the plaque. I picked out the plaque. They were really great. And I got to say, if you guys don't know Abington Square Park or never go in there, go in there. Not only is it a beautiful park, but the people who run it, the Abington Square Conservancy, are some of the best people on the planet. And they were very helpful, and they take care of it, and they pluck the wheat. I mean, it's just amazing. And it's right across the street from where she lived. And the vision for that was that it's in the sight line. You have that horror show, but then you have these hydrangeas that are beautiful and are a fitting tribute to her.
So Andy, I've been giving the sign that we have to wrap up, but is there any last words that you want to leave us with?
No, I just want to ask you guys, just show of hands or whatever, do you feel you know Adrienne now? Because that's important, and that's really the only thing that matters to me, is that she's here, at least tonight in this room and on HBO, December 1st. Don't forget, December 1st, HBO. Streaming, HBO Max. And, yes. I'm sorry, ma'am, who are you? This is Adrienne's mother, by the way. Oh. One of the most amazing people on this planet that you'll ever meet.
Oh, okay, all right. I know from day one how hard you have worked and how beautiful this came out, Andy. And my son is here with me now. I just wanted to tell you how much I appreciate and love you. And thank you so much for honoring Adrienne this way. It was beyond beautiful, Andy. Thank you. I just want to thank you.
Thank you.